My son refused to let me speak at the family meeting. He spat. Your voice means nothing here. My breath shook, but my words cut deep. You'll hear me when you least expect it. Hours later, he got a call from an unknown number that said, My name is Ron. I'm 62, retired now, living just outside of Birmingham, Alabama. My wife passed 5 years ago. Cancer. It ripped through her fast and left a hole that nothing's filled since. We were married 37 years. After she died, I tried to hold the family together, especially for my kids, David and Marcy. But grief changes people. And money poisons them. I worked in construction for most of my life. Ran my own crew for a while. Put in long days, sweat through summers, built houses for people who never even learned my name. I didn't mind. I believed in doing the right thing, paying your bills, raising your kids with some damn respect. That's how I was raised. I thought I passed that on. I was wrong. David is 38 now. He got into real estate about 10 years ago. Started flipping houses, made some decent money, then married Beth. Her family's got old Birmingham money. The kind that acts polite but looks down on anyone who uses their hands for a living. I was never invited much after the wedding. Holidays got distant. Phone calls got short. Marcy is 35. She's a nurse. Single mom, raising 2 girls on her own. She's tough. Reminds me of her mother. She's also the one who's been taking care of my ex-wife's mother, Evelyn. That woman's been a thorn in my side since 1978, but she's family. And I respect what Marcy's done for her, even if it's thankless work. A few weeks ago, Marcy called for a family meeting. She said she was tired, couldn't keep up with Evelyn's care anymore, and we needed to figure something out. I offered to host, but David said it'd be better at Marcy's house. His way of keeping me off home turf. So we met there. Me, Marcy, David, Beth, and even my brother Carl. We sat in Marcy's cramped living room. I brought a folder with some research I did on local care homes. I thought I could help. I thought they'd appreciate it. From the start, it felt off. David was running the whole thing like a damn board meeting. Let's keep this efficient, he said, waving his phone around like he had more important things to do. Beth just scrolled on her tablet. Carl looked like he wished he was anywhere else. Marcy started explaining how hard it's been, Evelyn not sleeping, wandering out at night, yelling at the grandkids. She was breaking down, and I could see it. I reached into my folder and said, I found a few care facilities with. David cut me off. Didn't even look up from his phone. Your voice means nothing here. Silence. I looked around the room, waiting for someone, anyone, to speak up. Marcy lowered her head. Carl sipped his coffee. Beth smirked. My heart thudded so loud I could feel it in my ears. That was my son, my only son, talking to me like a stray dog. I stood. My knee screamed from arthritis, but I didn't let it show. I looked straight at him. You'll hear me when you least expect it, I said. Calm. Flat. And I left. I drove home and sat in the dark for hours. Didn't turn on the lights. Didn't eat. Just sat. Thought about every moment I stood up for that boy. Every ball game I drove hours to see. Every dollar I gave him when he was starting out and couldn't make rent. All of it, gone. Around 10:30 that night, I pulled out an old prepaid flip phone I'd kept in the garage. I hadn't used it in years. I charged it, dialed the number I knew by heart, David's cell, and waited. He picked up. Hello. I changed my voice, made it lower. Slower. Do you know what your father's been keeping quiet all these years? Ask your mother-in-law. Click. It wasn't an empty threat. I had been keeping a secret. One I never wanted to use. But loyalty has limits. So does patience. Beth's mother, Janice, came to me 20 years ago, crying in her car outside the old Waffle House on Green Springs. Her husband, Beth's father, had disappeared after embezzling nearly $500,000 from the contractor I worked under. Janice begged me not to go to the cops. She said it would destroy Beth's life. Said she'd lose her college scholarship if it came out. I believed her. So I kept my mouth shut. For 20 years, I lived with that knowledge. I watched as Beth's family climbed back up, pretending nothing ever happened. I watched David marry into that lie. And I stayed quiet. Because I thought they were decent. Because I thought David respected me. But now, after what he said, no more silence. I wasn't bluffing. I was just getting started. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 6:15 a.m. I was already awake, sitting on the porch with my coffee, watching the sky turn. It was Marcy. Dad, she said, whispering like she didn't want anyone to hear. What the hell did you say to David? I didn't answer right away. He called me at midnight, freaking out. Said someone warned him about Mom's family. He thinks it was you. Did he? I said. Calm. Was it? He told me my voice means nothing. I said. He's hearing it now, isn't he? She was quiet for a long beat. Then she said, you need to be careful. I hung up without replying. I love Marcy, but she's still too close to that mess to understand what I've been holding back. By noon that day, the ripple had already started. David called Janice, his mother-in-law, and asked her straight up, what is my dad talking about? She denied it, of course. Said I was losing it. Said I must be confused or bitter. But Janice had to tell. She gets flustered when she's lying. Her voice cracks, she repeats herself. David picked up on it. He started digging. By the end of that week, I got another call, this time from Beth. Are you trying to ruin my family? She snapped. No hello. Your family ruined itself a long time ago. I just stopped covering for it, I said. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I know exactly what happened. March 2005. Your father was working for Manley and Sons Contracting. He was their controller. Money started going missing. The books didn't match. Then he vanished. No forwarding address. No phone call. Just gone. The company nearly collapsed. I was working jobs for them at the time. I remember the fallout. I remember the layoffs. She went silent. I also remember your mother showing up in my driveway a week later, crying like a child, begging me to keep my mouth shut. Even if that were true, she said slowly, why say something now? I wanted to yell. I wanted to scream at her through the phone, but I didn't. I just breathed in. Because your husband humiliated me in front of my family. Because he looked at me like I was dirt. Because he forgot who I am. That was when the tables started to turn. David stopped answering my calls. He sent a text. If you keep this up, I'll make sure you never see your grandkids again. I didn't respond, but I started writing. I wrote down everything I remembered about that time, names, dates, even the bank account numbers I'd heard mentioned in hush-side conversations back in '05. I found an old contact from the Manley firm who still remembered the whole mess. Turns out the statute of limitations on financial crimes isn't so clean-cut when new evidence pops up. But it didn't stop there. A week later, I got served. David had filed a temporary restraining order. Said I was harassing him and threatening the safety of his family. I stood on my porch with the papers in my hand, laughing once, just once. Not because it was funny, because it was desperate. This man, my son, was now treating me like a threat to be contained. And maybe I was. Because I hadn't even pulled the worst card yet. He didn't know that I still had the burner phone, or that I'd called an old friend of mine who now works at a news station in Montgomery. Because if David thought I was finished, he was wrong. I hadn't even started. The news station call wasn't a bluff. My old friend, Tommy Gates, had been a field reporter back in the early 2000s when the Manley and Sons scandal first cracked open. He owed me one. Back in the day, I helped him and his wife renovate their house for free when he couldn't afford labor. When I told Tommy what I remembered and that I might have something to tie Beth's father to the embezzlement, he got quiet. Then he said, if what you're saying checks out, this could be more than just a family feud story. This could be a cold case turned criminal again. We agreed to meet. I gave him everything, handwritten notes, copies of records I still had from my time at Manley, even a voicemail Janice left me in 2005 where she begged me, crying, not to talk to the police. I had saved it on an old mini-disc recorder I kept in a box with other junk. I don't even know why I kept it, but I had. That voicemail changed everything. Tommy had it verified by his editor. Then he looped in a producer from Atlanta. They started sniffing around Janice quietly, asking questions, pulling public records. And then, someone else stepped forward. An old accountant from Manley who'd always suspected Beth's father of cooking the books. He never said anything publicly, but now, with my info and the voicemail, he gave a statement. Said he remembered mysterious deposits being moved offshore, but no one had proof back then. This is where things really started to fall apart. David's perfect little life cracked. First, Beth's job at a local nonprofit came under fire. Turns out their funding comes from several legacy donors, including Janice's family trust. Once whispers started about potential fraud, the board quietly asked Beth to take a leave of absence. Then the news piece aired. It was one of those late-night exposés, not top billing, but enough people saw it. Long-buried embezzlement case resurfaces. New evidence ties missing funds to well-known Birmingham family. They didn't name David or Beth directly, but people put two and two together fast. I didn't call him. I didn't gloat. I just waited. 3 days after the piece aired, I got a knock at my door. It wasn't David. It was Beth. She looked like hell. Eyes red, hair thrown up in a messy knot, like she hadn't slept. She stood on my porch and said, "I need to talk." Alone. I stepped aside. She walked in without a word. "I'm going to lose everything," she said, sitting at my kitchen table. I didn't say anything. My mom's not answering my calls. David's panicking. Our accounts are frozen. "You don't know what you've done." "I think I do," I said, calm as ever. Then she leaned forward, voice shaking. "There's more. My father, he's not dead." I stared at her. "He faked it," she said. "In 2006. Told my mom to report him missing in Canada. He's alive. He's in South America. My mom's been wiring money to him for years. David found the records 2 nights ago." Everything inside me went still. That man, the one who hollowed out Manly and Sons, wrecked so many lives, including my own coworkers. He wasn't gone. He was hiding. Alive. And now, so much more was possible. I sat across from Beth in my kitchen, letting her words settle in the air like smoke. Her father was alive. He'd faked his disappearance. Hid for nearly 20 years while Janice funneled him money. While people like me and my crew suffered the fallout. While I scraped together jobs, watched good men lose their homes, and never said a word out of some twisted idea of loyalty. And now David knew. And if David knew, it meant the ground he stood on was falling apart fast. Beth looked up at me. "He wants to make a deal. My father. He says if we keep the story from going further, he'll return some of the money." Quietly. I laughed once, short and bitter. That money was never his to begin with. She wiped her face. "What do you want, Ron? What's the end game here? You want to see us all crash?" I stood, poured a glass of water. I needed my hands to stay steady. "I wanted my son to respect me," I said. "I wanted a family that didn't spit on what I built with my hands. But now I want truth. You want to keep this quiet? You should have raised a better man." She left without saying another word. 3 days later, Tommy called. Interpol's involved now. The money was moved through a shell company based in Uruguay. The feds want to reopen the case. I gave them your voicemail from Janice. They're building it. I thanked him, told him I appreciated everything. Then I hung up and waited. A week later, federal agents knocked on Janice's door. She didn't resist. She broke faster than anyone expected. Admitted to everything, sending money, lying to police, hiding financial records in her basement. 2 days after that, David was arrested. Not for embezzlement. He didn't touch those accounts. But for obstruction. When he found out about the fake death and the money trails, he tried to destroy digital records, erased hard drives, even paid a friend to clean his emails. They caught him lying to investigators. And that was enough. Beth filed for divorce 3 weeks later. She took the kids and moved in with her sister. Marcy called me a few days after the arrest. "He's blaming you," she said. "He should be blaming himself," I said. Then she was quiet for a second. "You're not the man you were, Dad. You changed." I thought about that. Maybe I did. Maybe watching your son turn into a stranger changes a man. Maybe being treated like a ghost in your own bloodline breaks something. But the next time I saw my grandkids, when Beth finally let me visit, I felt like maybe I hadn't lost everything. They hugged me like nothing had changed. They didn't know the whole story. Just that Grandpa was still standing. David got 18 months. Not prison, but federal supervision and heavy fines. His real estate license was suspended. His reputation? Gone. Everyone in the Birmingham business scene knows. His clients dropped him. His name is a punchline at closings now. Janice took a plea deal, community service, restitution, and public apology. She's not welcome at most family events anymore. Not even by Beth. And the best part? Beth's father was found, hiding out in a beach town in Uruguay, using a fake name and living off what was left of the stolen money. He was arrested, extradited, and now faces charges in multiple states. His trial starts next month. As for me, I sit on my porch most days now, same coffee, same view. But the silence feels different. Not empty, clean. Because I spoke when I wasn't supposed to. I dug when they told me to sit down. And they heard me, loud and clear. In the end, my voice meant something after all.